Hey guys, welcome back, and today we're going to be working on a video that I've been meaning to do for a very long time. It's probably going to end up being a two-parter video, but we're going to be working today on patient care and how to treat your patients in the field. So let's get started. Alright, like I said, let's get started. So, I'm gonna go over a few things. Pardon the lack of uniform. It is incredibly hot today. It's like 83, 84 degrees. So, I'm not gonna be wearing any uniform pieces today. Today, we're gonna be working on patient care in terms of torso, face, and shoulder, and everything basically like that envelops the torso. We're gonna do the legs and arms in a different video, just so the video doesn't run way too long. Could not get anybody to be a willing participant in this video, so yeah, we got this guy. He's a CPR dummy that I'm borrowing from the fire department and dressed him up like a GI. Everybody thinks I'm a crazy person. We'll get started on some of the basics of combat medic reenacting, so go through some of the steps, and then we'll start, working on our patient. All right, you guys, let's get started. So I wrote down the steps just so I could keep everything organized. There are some basic steps that I use as a combat medic reenactor that help me keep everything organized in terms of like what I want to do, what step comes after the next, just to keep myself organized and so I don't do anything that's gonna get myself killed. This could be used in any combat medic scenario, so anything from, World War II on towards modern day military. It all could conform to any, Vietnam, if you do, corpsman for Vietnam or something. Accessing your patient is your number one priority in terms of the first step. So you access your patient, moving your patient, treating your patient, moving your patient again, and triaging your patient. So we'll go through all these steps and talk about them, and throughout the video, I'll show you exactly what's the best way to do all those things. All right, like I said, your first step in being a combat medic is accessing your patient. So we'll start running through scenarios. So your scenario is you're a combat medic, and you're running around in the field. You're hiding behind some cover, and you see a fellow GI go down about 25 feet in front of you or something. In your mind, you're probably thinking, okay, the first step I do is to run out there and grab him and start treating him right then and there. No, that's probably not the best idea. Your objective as a combat medic, on top of treating patients, is also to stay alive, so you can treat your wounded. So before you make any rash decisions, jump out and start trying to treat people, you need to think tactically on what would make the most sense. So back to the beginning, you see a guy go down out there. He's screaming and yelling and holding his chest or whatever, got shot. You're not going to run right out there because you're probably going to get shot. You're probably going to turn. This is what I do when I'm a combat medic. I turn to the guys next to me and I say, I need cover fire, I need to go get him. I communicate with the riflemen around me. So what they'll do in that scenario is they'll probably go like, okay, we're ready to cover. I'll say I'm ready to run. They'll pop up, provide me cover fire, and I'll go out and I'll access my patient. That's the perfect world scenario. You want to try and get somebody to give you cover fire before you run and try to treat patients. Another part of the accessing of a patient is, am I going to be able to handle this patient by myself? Am I going to be able to drag him or help him up or move him by myself? If you see like a really, really heavy reenactor and you're a tiny little twig like me, that's probably not going to be possible, because some reenactors, they'll lay on the ground, they'll scream and they'll yell, and you'll be like, hey, help me, help you, get up, and sometimes they won't even do it. Sometimes they'll just lay there and they'll keep screaming. You're gonna get shot. So you sometimes need to enlist the help of a rifleman, or hopefully maybe there'll be another medic near you. You can, hail another medic over, be like, get over here, we have to go get him. So accessing your patient on top of getting cover fire means that you also have the means to provide care for your patient. Let's say, back to the scenario, you get cover fire. Great, okay, got cover fire, I got another rifleman, or I have another medic. We're gonna go out there as quickly as possible. We're gonna get our patient and we're gonna move him. We'll move on into the moving stage of, my little list here. So, in a perfect world, his suspenders and his web belt will all be clicked together, but this mannequin is actually way heavier in terms of diameter than I am, so I couldn't really get that. But you take the suspenders in your hands like this, you hike them up, their helmet might fall off, that's fine. You can grab their clothing at the same time, and you're just gonna use, your weight, pull them back, and drag them away. Obviously, with a real person, it's going to be a lot more difficult than that. So you can sometimes, yell at them, say, hey, help me, buddy, kick your legs. And usually a reenactor will get the idea and they'll start to help you a little bit if you're struggling. This is the clothing drag. Let's say they're wearing a pistol belt or something and they don't have any suspenders along with them. This part might be a little bit more difficult. This is when you're going to actually have to tell the reenactor, like, hey, you got to help me. Because you don't want to rip their clothing. You don't want to hurt them, choke them out. You basically grab the material around their collar. If they're wearing a jacket, grab the material around their jacket. And you do the same thing. You basically use the weight of your legs and pull them back. You take a step back, pull, take a step back, and then pull. And then you can pretty much effectively move your patient like that. So the objective of moving your patient is so that you're not providing care for them in terms of wound care out in the open. You're doing it behind cover where it's more safe, and you're not going to get shot, and they're not going to get shot again. Yeah, we got the suspender drag, the clothing drag, you know, the two-man carry, the one-man carry, and the assisted. Sometimes they'll just stand up, you'll grab their shoulders, and you'll run with them. All depends on who you're working with. If you're working with somebody that you're, you know, in your unit with, you could actually come up with an idea of like what you want to do, whatever works best for them, whatever works best for you. But sometimes you're flying by the seat of your pants, you have no idea who this guy is, and you just have to do whatever's gonna be the best for you and them. And yeah, so that's how you move a patient. Quick pause, really quick. I just want to talk about this book really quick. It's the First Aid for Soldiers book. If you were a combat medic or anybody who is interested in combat medicine in terms of any spectrum of World War II reenacting, I highly recommend you try and find one of these books. They're incredibly helpful, and they give you a lot of really great information about exactly how it was done back then. Yeah, like they talk about the fireman carry and stuff. I don't think it was called the fireman carry back then, but that's also another way you can do, you know, a patient, moving a patient. If you can try and get a patient up on your shoulders and just do a quick drag like that. Basically, the ones that I just showed you are to try and keep yourself as low profile as you possibly can, closer to the ground. When you stand up, you make yourself a huge target for any kind of enemies to shoot at you or shoot at your patient. So I didn't really go over these. If you want to get real, actual sources about this information, get one of these books. That's the two-man carry like I was talking about. There's some more drags and stuff, more stuff like that. I don't have to tell you again, this book is great. Helped me a lot when I first started reenacting as a combat medic. But yeah, let's move on to the treatment. Another thing I want to mention, as a combat medic, you're going to be dragging people and moving people away from where they were shot. So that means that they might lose equipment along the way. So they might lose their helmet, they might lose their rifle, they might drop a grenade, they might drop any plethora of things because they just got shot. In the real world scenario, they don't care about their rifle, they don't care about their helmet, their priority is their life. But we are reenactors. Our equipment is extremely expensive, and if we lose it, we're pretty much screwed. When you have a casualty, if they've lost their helmet, drop their rifle, grab it, and move it with the patient and keep it with the patient. Hand them back their rifle, hand them back their helmet. Make sure that that is something that you prioritize on top of just moving them, is that you don't forget any of their equipment along the way, because, you know, like Joe Schmo, he dropped his helmet and his rifle, and then right after the reenactment, he went back to where he got shot, and now he can't find it because somebody walked away with it. That's a huge issue. So do this because it's just, it makes the most sense. Keep their rifle and their helmet with them. Joe Schmo is mad because he lost his helmet, but I was his medic and I remembered to grab his helmet. Now, you know, I gave it back to him and now he's not mad and doesn't want to kill me. So avoiding conflicts like that would be super duper helpful for new reenactors or just anybody who portrays a combat medic. Try and keep their equipment with them. But yeah, let's move on into treatment. Okay, so now we're here at treatment. So basically we've moved our patient safely and effectively to cover, and now we can start actually doing work on the patient. So what I was talking about in terms of treating your patient is you want to expose the wound, you want to get an idea of what the wound looks like and what kind of interventions you want to use on the wound. Something I forgot to mention during accessing and moving your patient is if you can apply pressure in terms of direct pressure to any of their wounds while you're doing that, it's going to be beneficial to your patient in the long run because they're going to lose less blood. So applying pressure to your wounds is going to be a high priority thing for you during the entirety of your patient care. Obviously, they're reenactors. They're not actually going to bleed out, but you want to treat everything that you're doing in reenacting as realistically as possible because it gives the audience a really good idea of what you guys did, gives the patient a really good idea of what a combat medic actually was supposed to do and what they actually did. So applying pressure to wounds wherever they may be, super high priority in my opinion. So if you can't do it while you're moving your patient, you go, hey buddy, you know, put some pressure on it. Sometimes I'll even grab a reenactor's hand and I'll be like, slap it on them. I'll be like, put some pressure on it, and just like, you know, whatever, make it really dramatic. Applying pressure, super high priority. But now we're here. Like I said, we're gonna start doing some patient care. So moving on into patient care, like I said, we're gonna expose the wound. What do I mean by exposing the wound? It means undoing their belt, you know, loosening up their clothing, undoing their pistol belt so you can access their chest, since we're going over chest wounds in this scenario. So I'll unbutton like 1 or 2 buttons, or I'll unzip, or I'll do whatever to expose the clothing. And I'll even go another level and I'll usually unbutton like a button on the shirt. And that's what I'll usually do. I'm applying pressure, you know, as I'm doing all of this, trying to get an idea of what I got and what I'm working with. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you got a pretty bad chest wound, but you're gonna be okay. A lot of people don't really know how to talk to their patients. You just have to reassure them that they're gonna be okay, you know, put some pressure on it, you're gonna be fine. So we've accessed our wound, we've got an idea of what it looks like. Obviously it doesn't look like very much because it's not actually a wound. And for something like a chest, a belly, a neck, anything in the torso area, I want to be using something that's a little bit more big and bulky. So I'd probably go for one of these dressings, the blood stopper bandages like I talked about in one of my other videos, and a packet of sulfa. So obviously your patient's going to be laying flat on the ground on his back in the supine position, but I can't really show you guys that because I don't have a tripod, so this is what we're working with. We get an idea. I'll crack open a pack of sulfa like that. I'll sprinkle it on the wound. I'll just discard it. Like for something like this, one of these wounds, they're probably not going to be getting up and running around and participating in the battles anymore. At this point, they've probably, you know, called it on themselves and they're like, all right, you know, I'm taking a chest wound, I'm not going to be running around anymore. So you can very effectively just kind of put this in here, take the dressings, and yeah. So it's basically going to look something like that, just like a big gory looking mess. So that's a good way to do a chest wound. You really don't have to do much wrapping. You just kind of shove it into the material of their jacket and it'll pretty much stay there. Same thing with a belly wound. So like, let's say they get a belly wound, you expose the belly and you just kind of shove it into the material of their jacket and have them hold pressure, hold direct pressure. So like after this, after I've applied this bandage, I'm probably going to be like, put some pressure on it. If they're screaming about pain, you can always do some morphine. You could always just stick them with a morphine syringe. If you have a patient who has a neck wound or something, never ever in any scenario, whether it be real world medicine or reenactor medicine, take something and wrap it around the person's neck. That's going to choke them out, or it could just occlude blood from going to the brain, which is also really bad, make them pass out. Very bad, make a real patient out of a fake patient, so never wrap anything around their neck. So if you're going to do something like you want to do like a neck wound, you can always just be safe, and you can just be like, hold this here, and have them hold it. If for some reason they really want to go running around in the field again, you could just do this very simply. Take a bandage, put it underneath their arm, and then wrap it around like that. Very loosely, very gently, and then just tie it up nice and tight so it's not going to fall off. So it's not wrapped around his neck necessarily, it's just kind of pushing on the one side, and it's wrapped around his arm so it's not pushing on both sides of his neck. Don't do anything that you don't know what you're doing. If somebody has a neck wound, I just recommend you just say, hey, hold your neck, and then there you go, you're done. But yeah, neck wounds, chest wounds, belly wounds, shoulder wounds, you could just put a bandage over, wrap it around, call it a day. That's the basic gist of like what you would do for wounds that envelop that area. And for the next video, we can go into wounds on, you know, the arms and legs and stuff. So yeah, that's about it, you guys.